I have a quick question for you. Can you be Jewish and not be a Zionist? Can you be a Zionist and not be Jewish? Good evening, America. If you paused for even half a second, that's good. That means you already know these two words get treated just like they're the same word. But they are not. Tonight, I'm going to be taking them apart. Not with a textbook, not with 100 years of history dumped on you in one breath. Just two words, what they actually mean. And this is the part people listening and watching are going to have feelings about. One very concrete thing I think our synagogues should stop doing so this distinction actually shows up in real life. Well, stick around towards the end. I have a couple of things that our synagogues need to stop doing so that we can get away from this people subconsciously or consciously equating. And I always pause for a bit to read some of the comments. So here it is in two sentences. Judaism is who you are. It's a religion. It's a people. It's a set of holidays and prayers and values, and a way of moving through the world that's been passed down for thousands of years. You're born into it. You convert into it. You live into it. However loosely or tightly you hold it. Like being a Roman Catholic or an Episcopalian. Someone just asked me if I'm in the Reformed tradition. Reform is it's a current verb. There's no ed. It's not that we were bad and then we got better or changed. I'm Reform. Hebrew Union College, graduated from Cincinnati, Ohio. And so it's a religion. And some of you out there are Baptist, Presbyterian, Episcopalian. That's who you are. Maybe you were born into it. Maybe you converted. Maybe you agree with the religion. Maybe you follow it tightly. Maybe you follow it loosely. Okay? Zionism is a political position. Specifically, it's the belief that the Jewish people should have a homeland. Well, they have it now. So yes, the Jewish people should have a homeland, a state of their own, in the land of Israel, in the historic biblical land of Israel. Okay? That idea is old in spirit, but it became an organized political movement maybe 130 years ago. It's a what should happen in the world opinion, not an identity. So, one is a who, and one is a what do you think about this specific political question. They're different categories of things. It's like asking someone their religion and then asking them their opinion on a piece of legislation. Related, but not the same question, and definitely not automatically the same answer. And then, of course, people are bringing up Israel and who had the land first and inhabitants, and that's perfectly legitimate for a discussion. That's a political question. It's not about Judaism. And Jews have inhabited what we call Judea, Palestine. Remember, it's the land of the Philistines. That's where the word Palestine comes from. Israel, Judea, lots of names for that piece of property. And people have lived there. Jews and nomads and other people. Remember, Muslim religion came later than Judaism. So we have a constant people, but that's another question for another time. And that's not really what I would think about addressing tonight. Okay, but we'll get to it. So think about this. I was born in Boston, and we're very strong Irish and Italian communities there. Being Irish is an identity. Where your family is from, the culture, maybe the faith, the food, the music. Supporting a united Ireland is a political position. Some people hold it and some don't. Nobody assumes that every Irish person in the known universe has the same take on Irish unification. Same shape of things, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Being Jewish is the identity. Zionism is one political position about one piece of land. And like any political position, Jews land, if you will, all over the map, all over the land. And I want to go back to unification of Ireland. It would be the same thing. You're going to go into an Irish Catholic church, and you're going to equate everyone sitting there with the IRA? I don't think so. You're going to equate everyone there with not uniting, with unite? I don't think so. You're going to see Catholicism as a religion. The unification of Ireland is a political position. Zionism is a political position. Let me paint four people, and they're not hypothetical, by the way. Okay, and we're going to put them in a lane. I'm just stopping to. Each of these lanes is real, organized communities of actual people living in them right now. Okay? Let's see how we're going to do this. Okay, lane one, person one. Someone is Jewish by religion and a Zionist politically. And unfortunately, that's what almost everyone pictures by default. Religious or secular, they see the modern state of Israel as the fulfillment of Jewish self-determination after centuries of statelessness and persecution, and they actively support it existing and thriving. Okay, one can be Jewish and support the state of Israel. One can be Irish and not support unification. One can be Irish and support the IRA. Okay? That's our first person. Now, what about the second lane, our second person? Someone who is Jewish and anti-Zionist. Yes, this exists. And it's not new, it's not fringe. There are ultra-Orthodox communities who believe a Jewish state shouldn't exist until a specific religious event happens. And that event is the coming of the Messiah and the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. And there were entire major American Jewish movements 100 years ago that opposed a Jewish state on the grounds that Jews were simply citizens wherever they lived. Today, there are Jews, religious and secular, who oppose Zionism on political or ethical grounds. The same way people oppose plenty of other governments. It's a political position. Person 3, lane 3. This is the silent majority, I believe. This is the biggest group. Doesn't love the term Zionist, but doesn't love anti-Zionist either. cares about Israel existing safely, has real problems with specific Israeli policies, doesn't want to wear a political label as if it's a personality trait. Most Jews I know are in this lane. I define myself as a follower of Echad Ha'am, a cultural, spiritual Zionist. I'm going to add the word Zionist because he believed it should be a cultural center in the land of Israel. But Echad Ha'am was not a political Zionist. He would not approve of Israel's present policies. He saw Israel as a cultural, spiritual center. Very Jewish. But political Zionism, political Zionists took it over, and that's okay, that became the movement. But it's not synonymous with being Jewish. Person number 4, lane 4, if you will. Zionist and not Jewish. A huge group, millions of evangelical Christians are strongly Zionist for their own theological reasons that have nothing to do with being Jewish. There are politicians, diplomats, everyday people of every background who support Israel's existence as a state without being Jewish. And you can't say to them, Jewish Zionists are the same, because they're not Jewish. Because it is a political choice they made. Oh, there we have it. 4 lanes, 4 boxes. And being Jewish only guarantees you're eligible to be in box 1, box 2, or box 3. It doesn't tell you which one. And box 4 proves the reverse. You don't need to be Jewish at all to be a Zionist. The 2 words are not glued together. Unfortunately, we're treating them as if they are glued together, as if they're melded. And if you're one, you're definitely the other. Just not true. It's just not true. Let me see. And somebody brought up chosen people, which is kind of nice, but chosen is not a bad word. It's a misguided word, because when we think of chosen, we think of the teacher's pet, we think of better, and this isn't the case. The Jewish people were chosen to be a light to the nations, a lighthouse. God said, here are some teachings, here are some rules and regulations. I want you to live them. But you're not going to get any special treatment. I'm not choosing you to single you out so that bad things won't happen to you. It's not what God was doing. God needed a lighthouse. And so, that was our assignment. And all of God's creations have an assignment and have a mission. And the idea of being the chosen one shows up in lots of different religions. And then, that's why I don't like the word chosen, and we have to clarify. Think of it as a lighthouse, warning people away from the rocks, and sending a light out saying, look at this, look at this. Okay. Why do we mix up Zionism, Jewish, Judaism, being a Zionist, and who gets hurt by that process? So, since they're generally different things, why do so many people, including Jews, talk as if they're the same thing? Because of branding. It's all about branding. It's not about theology. The state of Israel calls itself the Jewish state. Synagogues started flying the State of Israel flag next to the Torah. Prayers for the State of Israel got added to Shabbat services, right next to the prayers for healing and peace. Jewish federations, Jewish summer camps, Jewish day schools, a lot of them built Jewish advocacy into what being a good Jew looked like. None of that happened because Judaism, the religion, requires it, because it does not. In fact, when we do the Passover Seder and say next year in Jerusalem, we're not talking about a geopolitical place. Ir Yerushalayim, the city of peace, where all religions live together in peace. And throughout the Haggadah, the Passover story, and throughout the Torah, and throughout the prophets, they're always the view towards a spiritual homeland, to a place of peace, to an ideal, not a geopolitical country. However, too many of our organizations, Jewish organizations, built in this idea of being a good Jew meant supporting Israel. The religion, as I said, doesn't require it. Now, it happened because of, after the Holocaust, wrapping Jewish identity and Israeli statehood, it felt like a safety net, like something that should be done. It was understandable. But it welded two things together that didn't start welded together. We now need to separate them out. And here is the actual cost of what's going on. When the two get treated as one thing, a few bad things happen all at once. Yeah. Few bad things happen all at once. Jews who are non-Zionist or anti-Zionist get told they're not really Jewish. Or they get excluded from Jewish spaces for political opinions, not religious ones, political opinions. Can you imagine if the Irish Catholic Church in Boston started telling members, unless you support the IRA, you're not Catholic? We can't even conceive of that happening. We can't conceive of them saying, oh, you're not welcome here. But that's what's happening with people who say, I don't agree with the Israeli government. I don't agree with this expansionism. I don't agree with how it's treating Gaza. I don't like what it's doing in the Lebanon. Meanwhile, anger at a government-specific policy gets aimed at Jewish people. I'm accused all the time here on TikTok of things that the State of Israel does. I'm going to start blaming Italians I know for things that Italy does. I'm going to start blaming French people I know for things the French government does. I'm going to start blaming Irish and Italians, Poles, everyone, Czechs. I'm going to start blaming everyone for what those countries do. Because that's what you're doing to me. You're saying, well, you're Jewish, so you must be a Zionist. Zionists are Jews. Jews are Zionists. So I'm going to blame you for Israeli policy. Wrong. Dead wrong. Judaism is a religion. Zionism is a political position. The flag, the Israeli flag on the bima, on the stage, on the pulpit, told everyone Judaism and the Israeli government are the same. They have the same address. At one time, made sense, in the 50s, maybe in the 60s, okay. But it doesn't work anymore. Anti-Semitism gets harder to name clearly, because the word Zionist gets used as a stand-in for Jew. And that makes it very difficult to find out, to say, is someone anti-Semitic? Are they anti-Israel? Are they against Italian politics? Are they against French politics? What do you think of the Italian, the Irish Republican Army, the IRA? What do you think of the unification? I'm going to address my claim. I'm looking down at the notes. I'm looking down what people are writing. This idea that Zionist is a stand-in for Jew. You know, if you call someone bad Jew or Jewish names, you're going to be accused of being anti-Semite. So instead you say, oh, you're a Zionist, Zionist, Zionist. And that really makes it hard to tease it out, because you're using them synonymously. None of that serves anybody. Not Jews who love Israel, not Jews who don't. Not the wider world trying to understand. So I've saved a few questions that I want to address now, over not just tonight, but the accusations of the things, okay? Let's see. Doesn't the Torah literally promise Jews the land of Israel? Isn't loving Israel built into Judaism? Great question. And a lot of times here on TikTok, don't have time to answer, but I'm not going to dodge it. I'm going to answer it tonight. The land of Israel, the physical geography, has deep, ancient religious meaning in Jewish text, in Jewish prayer, going back long before anyone used the word Zionist. But loving the land spiritually, praying toward Jerusalem, longing for it across the centuries, that's not the same as endorsing a specific 21st, well, it was founded in the 20th century, specific 20th century political state with borders, a government, an army, and policies you may or may not agree with. You can hold the ancient spiritual connection with your whole heart and still have complicated and negative feelings about a modern government and what a modern government needs to do in order to survive in this world. It's really complicated because no government has managed to survive on spiritual, religious, good feelings. Being a pacifist, you can't survive. You need an army. You need an economy. You need modern government. Now, someone might say, well, aren't you just splitting hairs so people can criticize Israel without consequence? Naming a distinction isn't a loophole. It's accuracy. Nobody thinks defining Catholic separately from supporter of an Italian political party is a trick. That's all I'm doing. Now, I just brought Italy in. I've been using Ireland as our example, but I think the unification of Ireland is a perfect example. Political, separate from being a Catholic. Now, this is brought up in the Jewish community. What about Jews who feel unsafe because they're not vocally Zionist in Jewish spaces? I read that in the Jewish press, in the blogs. It's real. I hear it constantly. And it's exactly the wound we're going to talk about fixing. We're going to fix this in a few minutes. Okay? So, if the problem is that two different things got glued together, the fix isn't picking sides. No. That just exacerbates it, makes it more difficult, and we get entrenched. And then we use it to get elected to public office. We use it to get votes. We use it to make money. No. The fix is ungluing them. And here's what this can look like in Jewish life, real Jewish life. 1. Synagogues, temples, places of Jewish worship can stop treating support for a specific government's policies as a prerequisite for full membership or leadership. You don't have to pass a Zionism litmus test to be a good Jew in the building. 2nd, Jewish day schools and adult Jewish education can actually teach this distinction instead of assuming it. If kids are graduating Hebrew school without ever hearing that non-Zionist Jews exist and always have, then something's remiss. Something's wrong. 3. Communities can create real space for people who love Israel and people who are critical of Israel to sit in the same sanctuary, sitting right next to each other, without either one being made to feel that they don't belong there. And 4, here it is. I think synagogues and temples and places of worship should take down the Israeli flag off the bima, off the stage, out of the main sanctuary. Let me be precise about what I'm saying and not saying. I am not saying don't love Israel. I am not saying stop caring about what happens in Israel. I'm not saying stop visiting Israel. I'm not saying stop celebrating holidays. I'm not saying stop raising money for Israel. If you believe in Israel, if you believe in those things, then do it with all your heart. Just not from the sanctuary altar. Just not next to the Torah scrolls. That's all I'm asking. You want to be political? Be political. Be political. Support. Lobby. Ask for money. Whatever. But don't equate it with being a good Jew. Here's why it matters more than a piece of fabric. A church doesn't fly the flag of whatever country its denomination started in, or the flag of what a nation most of its members voted for. A mosque doesn't fly the flag of Saudi Arabia. The sanctuary is supposed to be the one room where the thing that unites everyone walking in is the Torah, not a political position. A national flag of a foreign country sitting up there on the altar, you've quietly said to everyone, oh, if you don't support the state of Israel, you're not welcome here. You're not a real Jew. This space has picked sides. We shouldn't be picking sides. Take the flag down. And the sanctuary goes back to being what it's actually for. A room for every Jew. Whatever they think about the 20th century political movement, keep celebrating Israel with everything you've got. Have an Israeli day. Have Israeli food. Have a symposium, a fundraiser, parties. But not baked into the walls of where we worship. One small physical change. Let's make the distinction between being Jewish and being a Zionist. That's it. That's all that I ask. So, Jewish is who you are. Zionism is one political opinion about one piece of land, and Jews hold every possible opinion on it, same as any other political question. You don't have to pick sides today, tonight, tomorrow. You just have to stop assuming the two words are one word. If tonight's flag idea annoyed you, got under your skin, okay, talk to your rabbi, talk to your board, bring it up with your friends. Run it by some people. See what they think if they walked into the sanctuary and saw the Canadian flag next to the Torah scroll. I like the maple leaf. I like maple syrup. I'm going to put the Canadian flag up. People look at me and say, what are you doing? Doesn't belong there. We're not Canadian. That's my point. That's my point. See you next Wednesday, same time, same place, same space. RabbiBlock@hotmail.com. Email me. You want to co-host with me? You want to debate? You want to bring this up? Let's do it. Send me an email, and we'll do this next week. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay safe.